Hello there, and welcome to What's the Point? A question we should all be asking ourselves, and the podcast by brand architect Bill Ellis that will help you discover, clarify, and live your purpose.
Hello, welcome to What's the Point, the podcast where we focus on your purpose, how you feel it with passion, and how you explode it with persistence. And my guest today is an example of exactly that. Hi, Jamie Vann.
Hi.
Jamie is a hockey wife, a mother of two boys. She is an entrepreneur, and she is the founder and president of the Spirit of Discovery Park, which is coming to life right here in my town of St. Louis. So welcome. I'm excited to speak with you today, Jamie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I do need to make one clarification. I have a son and a daughter. Both play hockey, but son and daughter. Just want to make that clear.
That's a real good thing to make clear, and thank you for that. Especially if they watch this. Okay, so showing that we're all human. A lot of the listeners have heard of Jim Collins. Many of them may have not. He has written several books, Good to Great. He's written the book Built to Last. And in that book, he talks about a concept called a big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's referred to as a BHAG. And if people have no idea of what that is, or if they want to hear someone who's living that, Jamie Vann is the perfect person to speak with. She has a goal that many people doubt will ever happen, which is exactly why it's audacious to some, but it's something that you believe in. So tell me about the Spirit of Discovery Park.
So the Spirit of Discovery Park is a concept that we are bringing to life here in St. Louis that will be the second fully accessible amusement park in the world. And what that means is that we will have rides and attractions and a facility that all abilities can come and enjoy. So you have a parent who's in a wheelchair or on an oxygen tank. You have a child who is in a wagon undergoing chemo. You have a veteran who comes home and came home, which is amazing, but did not come home whole due to some accident. You have grandparents. You have parents who had a stroke or car accident or something. Life-changing things happen every day, but that doesn't mean that the joy that you can experience with your family has to end with your happenstance.
Well, that's absolutely incredible, and help us understand where this idea came from, when you discovered that you have this purpose and you're going to pursue it.
Okay. Good question. Deep question for me.
Yeah.
It started when my son was in kindergarten, and he's now a sophomore in high school. I was introduced to the first fully accessible amusement park through a conversation I had with a friend of mine during a play date. Mm-hmm. And she mentioned Morgan's Wonderland because I mentioned we were taking our kids to Disney World. And due to the circumstances of her family, her mom was in a wheelchair, her second daughter has Down syndrome. Disney World was not an option for them for many, many reasons. And so she brought up Morgan's Wonderland to me. And at that moment, when I found out that there was another amusement park that did include everyone, and it wasn't Disney, which was upsetting to me as a Disney fanatic, and I was an employee for them for many years, I just knew that I was upset to the core about the most magical place on earth not accommodating this sweet little peanut that was climbing up my lap and kissing me all over my face when I was there at the play date. And it kind of rocked me a little bit. I did a little bit of research when I got home that day. But then if you fast forward to 5 years ago in February, she ran into me in Target before we had to pick the kids up from school. And she told me that she actually went to Morgan's Wonderland with her entire family, extended family and everything, cousins, everybody. And she said that it was amazing. It was exactly what she was stunned. She said there was a line out the door to get in. There were wheelchairs, there were wagons like I had talked about, people with oxygen tanks, all kinds of things. And those little things that you hold that have the long things that you get in the hospital that you're hooked up for an IV.
Oh yeah.
Those poles. She said she saw a lot of people with the poles or whatever. And she's like, it was amazing. And I was like, why don't we do that? Just gut reaction. That's what I said. And she's like, you know what? It would go over really well in St. Louis because our community for the special needs community is so tight and so big. And I was like, we should totally do that. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to go get the kids and I'll talk to you later. I'm like, okay, great. And that's kind of where our conversation ended, but that's not where I ended, obviously. I ended up going to carpool line and I was sitting in the car waiting, and it takes, 15, 20 minutes. So I looked up Morgan's Wonderland and I called them on my cell phone. And I was like, hey, who do I need to talk to about finding out how to get a Morgan's Wonderland built in St. Louis? And the girl on the phone was like, oh, you need to talk to Gordon Hartman, who is Morgan's dad. I'm like, okay, great. Can I get the number? She's like, I'll just transfer you. Transferred me over to him. I got his, I guess, secretary, gatekeeper, whomever. And she was like, oh, yeah, totally. We have a nonprofit for that. Let me transfer you over to our consultant. That phone call, transfer over. I didn't even get phone numbers. And I got a hold of Robert Luna, who is a partner of the Wonderland Development Group. It's a nonprofit to build other parks like theirs around the country and the world. And the rest is history. I mean, it took one phone call, 3 transfers, and 5 years later, here we are.
That is incredible. And what really strikes me, and I hope strikes our listeners as well, Jamie, is the conversation that you had that was kind of spontaneous with your friend in Target. And this idea comes out and she goes, yeah, it's a great idea. And then she gets back into her day, which there's nothing wrong with that in the least. And she goes to pick up her kids and it sparks an idea inside of you. And you found something inside of you where that passion said, this is something that I can do. But you were driven with a purpose. What I heard you say is your background and your experience in both going to and being an employee of Disney. And the fact that you had this sudden epiphany that they don't accommodate people with special needs as well as they could. And you took action. I mean, you went from Target, got in the car, and many of us have been in pickup lines at schools. And rather than listening to the radio or checking our phone or texting or whatever, you made a phone call and look what's happening now. It's incredible.
It's fun. I'm not going to lie. It's really fun.
Well, and I just am really impressed that, one act built on a spark of an idea has gotten you to the point that you're at now. So what is the current status? 5 years later, where does the Spirit of Discovery Park stand in its development?
Okay, so our 5-year anniversary is coming up in February of 2021. And so we are in the process of prepping for that and seeing, all that kind of thing. But we are still in search of our home because finding 35 minimum acres of flat land, not in a floodplain in Missouri, is not ideal. I mean, if we had a gift just planted on our silver platter, it would be flat land, 35 acres, no sense of water anywhere around, but that's not happening. Oh, and if it was donated, that would be better. But it's okay because we are working towards, we're in conversations right now with what we hope and foresee as being a potential home. At this time, I'm not able to disclose where, but it's we've gotten further than we have with any of the other 4 pieces that we have looked at and investigated and conversed over. So that's kind of where we are. We are continually moving forward. We have a lot of Spirit of Discovery Park has been an umbrella nonprofit and an umbrella idea. And we figured that out because we have a lot of different arms that we have under it that are moving, and they are in full forward motion. It's just we don't have a home to place it all under. So that's kind of where we are. We've had some obstacles, not too many, to be honest. But this has been our grandest obstacle because it's taken the longest. And that's basically land.
Yeah, and that is a big challenge, no doubt, especially from living here in St. Louis area. When you said the qualification of not in a floodplain, that's a big consideration. That knocks out a lot of potential geography. So the other thing that impresses me is, so you found a purpose, and obviously your passion is there fueling it and continuing it, but your persistence. You are driven, and you have people that support you and are driven with you. Your board of directors and your support beyond a team. I mean, your support community is impressive, and how you're just continuing on and on and on. It's fantastic. How do you do that?
Thanks. I am the type of personality that when given a challenge, which I probably shouldn't be exposing this live, but I am anyway. If you challenge me to something, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. That's just how I'm built internally. I've always been that way. I'm a competitive person. And I think a lot of the persistence has to do with my competitive human nature of people telling me no and me saying, watch. So it has served me well in this instance and with this monumental project that we've taken on. But it's been a hard characteristic to curb. And what I mean by that is I've realized when I took this project on, I thought it was a challenge. I was like, I can do this. I'm not starting something from scratch. I'm taking something and improving upon it. It's already been done before. I'm not recreating the wheel. I'm just putting this in action somewhere else. And because of the climate in St. Louis, we have to change things for this park. I was like, great, totally doable. But then I realized when I hit some obstacles that had made me question myself as a human being and question my core values, did I then realize that this is a calling and not a job? When I realized that, I was lucky enough to have already been in conversations with a coach who at the time I thought was a business coach. Turns out over the past 5 years, I've realized that he's a life coach for me, because in business and in personal, you can use the same qualities that you're learning about yourself and apply it into different situations. So I truly believe now that when I started, it was definitely a challenge. It still is a challenge in some degree, but now it is a calling. It is exactly why I was put on this earth. And if you look at my resume, there is a distinctive dot line that is like, yes, of course, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Look at my resume. I have all the education, and I have all of the education, not just book smarts, but the jobs that I had taken and the experiences that I had within those jobs and who I came in contact with and the organizations that I joined and the volunteering that I had done as a single person and as a married person and now as a parent, it all makes sense. It is just the path that has been laid out. I just couldn't see it. So I really think a lot of it the persistence has to do with A, my personality is like that. B, I think what I do on an everyday basis, because it's so different every day, I'm allowed to be creative. I'm allowed to use my brain. I'm allowed to have peopling, whether it's on a computer or in person. I can use all of those gifts and things that I like to keep me going. And then I also do believe that it's a calling, because when things are not working with this park and with the board and we're running up and into roadblocks, it's the time that we say, okay, this isn't happening. There's a reason. Step back and wait. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, like 5 pieces fall into place, like magically. The stars align and everything is like smooth rolling. It is insane, but time after time after time, it happens. So it's a really long answer. I hope that was okay.
Oh, of course, it's fine. That's exactly what we want to find out, is because my whole intention with this podcast is to help people gain clarity for themselves on how they can tap into their purpose and fuel the passion. And persistence is critical. So I call this podcast, one of my favorite questions, what's the point? So it got to the point, literally, of you saying, okay, this was a challenge. Yeah, but really you had to think about it. And the question would have been obvious. What's the point? And you gave that some thought. And what's the point to me is a question that can't be asked too often. What's the point? Well, I want to build a park. Great. What's the point? And eventually it drills down internally. And you hit on such a key point there, Jamie, that we really have to, if we're going to get into our true purpose and passion, we have to find our core values and tap into them. So persistence, and your answer wasn't too long, persistence is needed because, to me, purpose is a journey. Purpose evolves and grows and adjusts, and that's another gift of the persistence. We have to hang in there long enough till things start to clarify and shift and fall into place. It's amazing, just that's amazing. True. So I'll just point out that I love your Santa behind you. We talked about that before we started recording.
Isn't he awesome?
He's fantastic. So obviously we're recording here before the Christmas holidays, and this will air after the Christmas holidays. But it's nice to see the joy and the happiness and the Santa and the gifts, because you, my friend, are a gift. And your husband is a gift. So just to take a side step here and talk just a little bit about Jeff, I had to get clarification on hockey wife. Well, hockey wife, as it turns out, and correct me, is being married to a man who is obsessed with hockey, playing, coaching, self-taught, driven, enthusiastic. And I say all of that to get to this. The contribution of the Vann family is touching so many lives now and in the future. What did Jeff do with his hockey that is pretty special? And I hope you know where I'm going with this.
I do. And it's funny that you say this, because I'm going to share a story that happened at our gala last year. So Jeff is, and always has been, the yin to my yang. I'm the crazy, I'm the risk taker, I'm the loud, I am the busy. He is the soak it all in, calm to my storm. Definitely the level-headed reason this family can coexist together. So when I told him that I wanted to do this park, he was like, okay, whatever. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So he was just like, go, if it makes you happy.
There she goes again.
Happy wife, happy life. Yeah, pretty much. But I don't think that I'm blessed that he's never doubted where I've gone. So when I take on something new, he's like, great. And I think it's because time after after time, he has seen that I am persistent and I strive to succeed at the highest level I personally can. So when I talked to him about this amusement park, he was like, yeah, that's fine. But you have to remember we're in St. Louis. So make sure when you build the park that you have an ice rink. And I was like, okay, makes sense. That's a small ask for a big ask on my part. Had the conversation, and at the time, we had started putting our board together. And we had one of our board meetings. We were talking about logo, and we were talking about names, and we were talking about business cards and that kind of thing. And I remember distinctly having a conversation about our business cards, because I was like, you guys, we have to have Braille on these business cards. We cannot be servicing and promoting that we are supporting everybody. And already by handing out your business card, you are discounting one of our major communities we're trying to serve, which is the blind community. Once I said that, they were like, fine, do it. I was like, okay, fine. So I ordered everyone's business cards, and I was excited. It takes a lot longer than just ordering normal business cards, because you have to print them and then the Braille comes on. But I finally got them. And I was excited because I only knew one blind person, and he was my history teacher in high school.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my God, this is great. So I had to run to the mall to get a housewarming gift or something. And then as I'm coming out of the mall, I see someone hugging the wall with a cane and a service dog. And I was like, I haven't seen a blind person in a very long time. I'm like, that's crazy. I love that. Walk out to the parking lot, and the light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, there's a blind person. I've got to give him my card, because that's the only person I know who could read it. So I ran back in there, and I got my card out. I'm like, excuse me. And I'm running after this person in the mall. And I was like, I'm really sorry to bother you. I just wanted to hand you this card and let you know that we're building a park for all abilities. And I just wanted to make you aware that this was happening. And I gave her the card. At the time, I didn't know it was her dad. It was her dad. And he was like, okay. He took it, put it in his wallet, and like turned his back. I was like, great. I am a stalker. Not a good first impression. But I went in my car. I went home, went about my day. And 2 hours later, she called me. And she said, hey, I just want to let you know that you gave me your business card in the mall. I went online. I looked at your website. I really am excited about what you guys are doing, but I have some questions if you have a minute. I said, sure. She goes, I'm really interested in your ice rink. Can you tell me what that's about and what it's for? And I said, sure. And I talked her through it or whatever. And I said, why do you ask? Do you play hockey, or are you a figure skater or whatever? She's like, no. She's like, but my best friend has always wanted to play hockey, and there is nothing like this. And I was like, I was like, yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do. And I understand that there's a specials curling team. And so we were talking about doing curling there as well. Fast forward, received an email from a gentleman from Washington State saying, hey, I got a random email about you guys putting in an ice rink for a fully accessible amusement park. If I brought all the equipment, and would you be able to get a sheet of ice and advertise a try blind hockey for free?
Wow.
And honestly, I was like, I love this. And my gut reaction is yes, but I am CCing my husband on this because he's the hockey guru. I'm not. Yeah. My gut is to say, sure, take on the opportunity, do something for the community. Yeah. Perfect. But I can't speak to that. Here's my husband's info. Fast forward, totally had the event. He said that it was so well staffed and so well attended, he left all of the equipment with us in St. Louis. And he's like, you have enough to start a team. And I was like, awesome. And so we get home, we have all of these enormous, I mean, honestly, the hockey bags are about the size of a love seat and they smell horrendous. We had 4 of them and about 60 hockey sticks added to the 3 hockey bags and million sticks that we already had in our garage. And Jeff's like, what are we doing? I said, we're going to have a hockey team. And he's like, this is not, he's like, I am not doing this. He's like, I go, it's not your decision. We have to bring it to the board. It's a board vote. And that's what we did. We brought it to the board, and the board unanimously said, this is what we need to do. Jeff, you're in. He's like, awesome. So he was not really excited at first until we had our second tri-blind hockey event, and the VPs of the St. Louis Blues showed up without us knowing. And they couldn't believe what they were seeing. They're very, very supportive of our community. They support the sled hockey team. They support the specials hockey team. And they were like, whatever you need, we're here.
Okay.
And when that happened, Jeff realized this is bigger than SODP. This is bigger than us. And he was hook, line, and sinker. The crazy thing is that last year when we won the cup, the Stanley Cup, go Blues, I had called them right away and said, hey, can we get the cup at our gala? And they said, this thing is already out, scheduled, whatever. We ended up getting it. They surprised us with it and told me like the day before. And Chris Zimmerman was one of our guest speakers that night at the gala. And we had an open Q&A. And before we started, introduced the organization, and some of the players were there. And it was basically brought up like, oh yeah, so this just kind of magically happened. And, Jeff just took it on, and they were like, oh yeah, it was great, blah, 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 blah. And Chris Zimmerman gets up there and it's like, Jeff, I'd really like to know how that conversation really went down. And Jeff just turned bright red and snickered and said, that's exactly what happened. So he was very modest and very, he's done a great job. It's been amazing. He's been an amazing role model for a lot of individuals in this community. He's been an exceptional role model to our children, because both of them are involved and both of them want to coach, and both of them are on the ice every Sunday at 3:30 with those blind hockey players and their families, and promoting it at the schools. And it's been a blessing to us, although people say it's a blessing to them. It's crazy how it works.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was really long, but it was worth the story.
Absolutely worth the story. Absolutely worth the story. And there's so much takeaway from that. First of all, I love that your children, your boy and your girl, are so enthusiastic with hockey. And it, they're being a part of the blind hockey practice every Sunday. Just shows what I said earlier about the Vann family's contribution. But importantly, it really speaks to your concept of being inclusionary. I mean, a girl playing the hockey, and I don't mean to be sexist, but it's unusual. It's certainly in a minority at this point, and that's changing, which is good. So for the listeners that aren't familiar, the Blues are the St. Louis Blues National Hockey League team, and they did win the Stanley Cup, which is the
Yes, we did.
Perhaps the most prestigious league champion award of any sport, and I say that as a non-hockey player. So it truly is something fantastic, and how they've jumped in and helped, and they are generous to a fault to begin with in their community involvement, the Blues. So I want to definitely acknowledge that. But all of this kind of comes together, and as I listen to you tell that story, I personally believe that without a doubt, I'll say this, there's a higher power at work in our lives and in the universe. And I am not going to take a stand on one religion over the other, because I believe anyone that is willing to embrace the concept of a higher power, it is going to be in a better place than not doing that. But I will use the word, God has a way of having things happen in this world, or if you want to call it the universe or Allah or whomever. Things happen for a reason. And a lot of what seems to be coincidence isn't really coincidence. So the story of you, the saga of this of going from we need business cards to speaking to Jeff about the hockey and then finding the blind person in the mall is just phenomenal. I mean, that happens because of you being so true to your purpose and being persistent. So we've talked a lot. People that listen to this podcast are also very generous and very kind and very helpful. What can we do to help the Spirit of Discovery Park, or SODP, as you use the abbreviation at times? What's the best way we can help you?
So right now, the best way that you in your community and our community can help is to help spread awareness, because we are coming and we are going to need funds. I mean, everybody knows that nonprofits need funds.
Yes.
We are a business, so we will be raising a lot of money, and it will be something that we need to do to keep the park going from here on out. So funding is definitely something that we're going to need. Connections. I mean, you and I are the best example that we can give to your listeners about connections and how you meet someone for the first time, 5 years ago, and look where we are today. I mean, it's crazy. So one way that you can get more information or really dive a little bit deeper, if you will, is go to our website, and that's spiritofdiscoverypark.com. You can also reach out to me personally if you don't want to, or you do want to ask more questions and dive a little bit deeper and find out a way that you could be hands-on in a very socially distanced environment right now. But you can reach me at jamie@spiritofdiscoverypark.com, and that's JAMIE. We don't have a lot of opportunities right now for volunteers because we've had to postpone most of our events. But that doesn't mean that there aren't different ways that people can use their gifts to help bring this to fruition. So I'm open to speaking to anyone and everyone that may have an idea that we haven't thought of, because I don't know what I don't know until someone tells us.
Yeah.
So tell us. I mean, that's how we got this far and how we're building this Mecca, because people have told us and expressed what we need and why we need it. And so more information is always better.
And that's fabulous. So spiritofdiscoverypark.com, Jamie, JAMIE, Jamie @spiritofdiscoverypark.com. And awareness and ideas and information and insight,
Land.
prayers. If anyone has 35 acres, how many?
35 acres minimum.
Yeah. And so the cool thing about this is this podcast is listened to by people across the country, and frankly, through many parts of the world outside of the U.S. And a lot of people that listen here either have someone, they're either themselves with their own limited abilities, or they have someone in their family. My granddaughter has, as we've discussed before, thank goodness, has just the slightest touch of cerebral palsy, but there is an effect there. My brother has been accepting and living with multiple sclerosis for well over a decade. So it reaches and touches everyone to some degree or another. And in this day and age, as you mentioned, the social distance, the word I hate, physical distancing, social distancing I don't like. It's just that much more important to focus on community and to think about others and to be other focused. And you mentioned when we met at an event where, again, you were giving and you were there to do what you can do at an organization called the Warrior Transition Network, which our friend Will Foy has created, which is designed to help military who comes back home to the U.S. transition back to civilian life. And that incorporates people that have full physical abilities, but many that don't. So your kindness, your caring, your giving, your enthusiasm are all contagious, and they touch my heart. And I thank you for being the person that you are and doing what you do. And if there's anything that I can do or that our What's the Point community can do, let us know.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your kind words. There is one thing I need to ask you.
Yes.
When and where can I get your new book? Because readers are leaders.
Well, the new book has to be finished getting written first. So the two publications that I have now, thank you for asking. One is Women Who Won. Women Who Won by Bill Ellis can be found on Amazon. And the other is an anthology called Bright Spots, where I'm one of 40 authors that have added a chapter to just some bright spots in the world, which is a good thing. The other book is in the works, and you will get a signed copy as soon as it exists. But I'm not putting a time on it.
Okay, that makes sense. I thought it was due out soon, but I didn't know that it wasn't finished yet. I thought it was in publication. Okay.
Well, thank you for even remembering it. I appreciate that. We'll get the word out on that as well. But in the meantime, what I really want to focus on is just another reminder, spiritofdiscoverypark.com. Jamie Vann, you're a magnificent person. Your family's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you like what you heard, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We can promise you'll gain value in every one. Rating and reviewing makes us more discoverable and helps others find out what's the point. And if you'd like to know more about Bill Ellis or contact him, please visit his website, www.brandingpillars.com. See you next time.